There we
Yay.
are. We
Hi,
are
everybody.
live. Hello. Happy Friday. We were
Happy
watching this time. We weren't in mid conversation.
No, I was absolutely we actually, I think, just took a deep breath from, the last 5-second countdown. So good for us.
We did. Absolutely. Prepared. All right. But we
So
got a lot.
we have a lot to cover. I just said to Lenny, for those of you who weren't here, is that this morning when I went to the gym, I was like, oh, the exchange is now on Spotify. So thank you, Carly, on the spot. We've launched our Green Book Podcast Network, so you can take in this information in another way if you prefer to listen to us in any of your podcast platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever else you listen. You can find us there. Also, Lenny's CEO series is in there, so you can have a listen there as well. So it's exciting because we're here on LinkedIn Live, YouTube Live, pushed out in podcast players, and it's officially a network. So kudos to all of you on the marketing team. Good job.
Yes, absolutely. It is a thing now, and it's all the historical shows are on there as well, right? So it's not just the current. There's a whole history there. So and we hope to expand that as well. We work on a podcast network. So
we have plans, but anyway, but now it's I went in there and I listened to the last week's The Exchange this morning. So I was like, oh, do your little star rating. So if you find any of our shows out there on your podcast player, please, rate, review, like, subscribe, all the things you can do to help us get found to be of use to more people would be appreciated on our end. Right, Lenny?
Absolutely. And we do appreciate the listenership across all the growth of these channels has been amazing. That's why we keep doing this. Obviously, at least some people find value in what we're doing. Hopefully others will as well, but it's very gratifying. So
it really is.
Thank you for your support.
Yes.
And wait, one plug, by the way.
Another plug.
You want to sponsor the Green Book Podcast Network? Reach out. Right. I mean, we really have across these shows, we've got a pretty damn big audience now. And if there's not a sponsor, you want to get brand visibility, reach out. It's a pretty cool thing.
There's also ad opportunities to do an ad across our podcast. Why does Masterclass get all of the ad space in the world, right? So or Audible. I think those are big, all those big companies. Yes, we can be a little more targeted in our niche. So
we can.
So reach out.
All right.
That'd be super fun.
Next plug, but a good one, a fun one.
Yeah, let's talk about the Grit Forum next Tuesday.
Yes.
And we gave a little spoiler, which I re-listened to it, when the idea came to Lenny and I last Friday, where we talked about let's gamify this one a little bit. So we are going to give a ticket to IIX to the person who finds the most pop culture references in this coming Grit report, to be released, I think next Tuesday. Well, the forum is Tuesday. The report will be released.
I think Monday.
I think Monday, at least. And then we'll be back in 2 weeks to kind of share out who found the most pop culture references. The key is email it to us at theexchange@greenbook.org. So, and by it, I mean all of the pop culture references you notice. What are we talking about? We're talking about book references,
movies, books, TV. There are so many Easter eggs baked into the report. I have to give a shout out. He always hates it, but Nelson Whipple does the heavy lift of most of the writing, and Nelson is just one of those. He's a culture encyclopedia, and he has a lot of fun, and he slips those in to the report. It is not a dry report. It's a big report. It's hefty, but it's a lot of fun to read, actually. And yes, so there's lots of Easter eggs in there.
Yeah. So we'll be tracking. Send us the ones you found, and we'll see who finds the most, and we'll leave it at that. It'll be interesting.
And then you get a free pass to IIX.
So something.
Absolutely.
To one of them, to be discussed which one, but it most likely it'll be one of the ones where that ticket is a value add, right? We're not going to say come to IIX AI because that's a virtual event, which is free for many. So what we'll do is it'll be for probably one of our 2026 events.
Yes. Yes.
Cool.
So have fun, guys. It's read the report. You're going to get a lot out of it, and hopefully you get find these pop culture references, email us, and we'll see who gets the most.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll see you at the forum on Tuesday.
Absolutely.
Lenny and I are both going to be there. He's doing the kind of the intro kickoff executive summary highlights, and then it'll be followed by 4 different commentary panels and discussions with, across all of them, nearly a dozen people in the industry kind of chiming in. So good stuff to come.
Yes, with you moderating too, which is your sweet spot. I only pretend you are actually the real thing. So it'll be great. And then what we got IX Europe. Here we are. I mean,
I know, but wait, there's more. It's a busy month. And then so next Friday will be our sort of last hurrah before I head off to Amsterdam with certain people on the team. And so the following Friday, not only will we share kind of the winner of the contest, but we'll also talk a little bit about Europe, because I'll be fresh off the plane, kind of sharing whatever I can that day, briefly, of course, but about what we experienced overseas in terms of content and conversations. So that'll be fun. I'm psyched.
Yeah. So no show next Friday, no live show next Friday, but the following Friday.
No, there's a live show next Friday.
We are? Okay, never mind.
So remember what I said? Next Friday we're live, because I haven't gone yet. And then it's good.
I get confused. It's Friday. I'm sorry. Okay, never mind.
Next Friday is here, and then the following Friday I'll have just flown home. So we might as well do it live. I'll just be tired. I don't promise glamour. I will be tired and potentially jet lagged, but make some fun conversation.
Okay. All right. I thank you for correcting me. I'm see, guys, Karen, she's the unsung hero in so many ways. One of them is just keeping me from not doing lots of stupid stuff. Instead, I just do a few. All right. On that note.
All good. On that note, let's get into it, right? Because there's a lot going on kind of in the news, between kind of an acquisition and like a rebrand and product launches. And then this week, actually, I really want to get to some of the thought leadership pieces. There's a lot of things that people are sharing their thoughts vocally about. So let's get through some of the business stuff so we can get to the good conversation starters, shall we?
Let's do it.
Right.
You want to talk about Rally, and I'll talk about Black Swan?
Mintel. Yeah. So, all right. So, So up first, Rally UXR raised 11 million Series A funding. So this is about revolutionizing enterprise user research workflows. Basically, it's just every time we see one of these, kind of where some investment dollars are going, it's just a signal to us to pay attention. And what's happening is this, I think, is mostly going to be about, again, getting those user insights at scale in a place where everybody can access them. And there's some value in what they're doing. Obviously, investors are on board. So take a look at that, see what they're doing that you can maybe learn from. Good stuff.
Yep. Real quick to expand on that. I mean, this conversation, we've talked about methodologies a lot, right? But but workflows is the other. It probably doesn't get the attention it should get. That's also the massive change that is happening, and so it's important, right? I've had quite with clients lately on getting back into my operational days of thinking like, well, here's how we go from the survey to SPSS to Excel to it's like there's new tools that can make massive efficiencies in that process and workflows that gives competitive advantage. So it's important to see these type of things happening as well.
And I know one more thing. So this is what happens when we start actually talking about some of these stories a little more. If you think about, kind of the centralization of all of the inputs from user research, and then kind of the disruption overall that everyone's in, this of course is like, we need everything to be centralized. We need or organized so that everybody can access it. And yet at the same time, we're so disruptive with AI and some of the tools and new methods and all that. This is the right time actually to go back into your workflows, because they are changing and AI is making different things possible. So it's a perfect time to evaluate your workflow processes across the board for everybody.
Yes, and there's standalone platforms like this. For this other client I was talking to, I was actually surprised. I looked at the individual. There's certainly lots of third-party solutions that do individual things, but there's also just a buttload that that Azure and Copilot could do, or OpenAI could do. And we're seeing that happen now. I saw a thing that OpenAI is integrated with HubSpot now, and blah, 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 right? All those things are happening to make that, think about this workflow process. We'll talk about Perplexity in a few minutes, right? Just to make all those things so much more efficient than as part of the operating system versus just kind of specific discrete elements of a process. So interesting times.
For real.
All right. So I want to give a shout out to my friends at Black Swan. They were a client for a while. Really smart folks. Acquired by Mintel. Perfect sense. This is the Reese's Cup type of deal. Mintel acquires Black Swan to bring Black Swan does predictive insights around a lot of. Sorry. I'm not at my best today, guys, for a variety of reasons, and I just had a brain freeze. Black Swan was building tracking solutions to be able to predict trends around product categories, et cetera, et cetera. You combine that with the Mintel that is acquiring data at the store level around purchase behavior, et cetera, et cetera. It just makes perfect sense for those to be combined. So hats off to both of them, and congrats to my friends Hugo and Steve at Black Swan.
And it just, to me, what this shows is also this kind of marriage, convergence, or partnership, whatever, between like traditional and AI and research technologies, and they are continuing to wed right now. And this is another indicator that is where we are right now. We are at a place where we need to be linking those two things very closely to stay strategic and also face the current times. I mean, there is a lot of conversation, and we'll get to some of these. Somebody else was talking about it. The need to just make sure we're staying human, which is translated into strategically thinking, critically thinking, making sure we're checking and double checking. The need right now, presently, is for those two things to come together. So it's a great example of that.
Yes, unlocking new value creation, but foundationally still from the perspective of what humans do, which is probably a good segue into
we didn't really. Yes, good. I like it when that happens. So Sympler has rebranded as OK Human. I think this is really interesting because in my head I'm like, I want to see that play out a little bit. But it's basically they are making kind of this bold move to center human creativity and emotion in their insights work amidst this time of AI adoption. So again, human-centric insight approaches and, some of that, emotional authenticity, good stuff. We'll see. And, some of their tools are super fun, and their methods are fun and engaging. As a qualitative researcher, I like what I've seen. What else do you think about that one?
I love it. Is that the dividing line, right? Are we seeing that really start to emerge? Well, I think it is the dividing line. Technology, which is increasingly commoditized, and it's kind of you get stuck in this arms race, and it's just keeping up with the Joneses, right? Type of thing. It is hard to differentiate from a technology perspective now. Just is. But what you do with the information, providing that human element, I continue to think that is the high value differentiator. And people Sympler's obviously embracing that as part of their brand and their positioning, and the value that they deliver. So I think we'll see a lot more of that focus as well.
Yeah. And I think I was reading in there again, ethnography. So, ethnography is in their wheelhouse. And I think that especially in an era with synthetic data becoming a thing, right? And we can talk more about this later as well, but the need to check and validate what you might be getting synthetically with what's actually happening, what is actual behavior. I think the need for ethnography has never been stronger. You have to maintain the human connection for your entire brand team, so that they don't just start relying on synthetic responses without that checks and balance to, is this accurate? Like, is this what people are really doing? How does this check out? How does this test out? So validate all the synthetic stuff with real humans. I think that's a big deal right now.
Yeah, I'm in violent agreement.
Yeah.
Right. And this topic is coming up an awful lot. And you know, it goes back to grit. We'll see this in grit as well. This and who, what, when, where, and how. That's that's data. We are in the era of data utility optimization, across the board. But why?
Yeah.
And now what?
Yeah.
What's next?
Yeah.
Those things, those are still today the realm of humans, primarily. And that is the essence of what research does overall. So, I think it's really cool. Want to talk about some of these new products as well that are variations on a theme. So can you guess what they all have in common?
And that's, I think, the starting point. And there were more also. I kind of hold the list down a little bit too. But, we are seeing all of these AI launches. I actually don't know these two companies. I don't know if you do. The first two, at least. SMG launching Ignite, kind of an AI native platform, which is, all about powering their experience management with embedded AI agents. So makes sense. Yes, that's what we're talking about, right? This is a very logical feature. Yes. Yes, this is what I would expect to see in the industry, purpose-built AI systems tied to experience management systems for real. And then this Emtherical, I've never heard of Emtherical. Do you know anything about them? I like this. This one's really interesting to me.
I do. I actually have a lot of history with Kirsten, who built this. We were both.
All right. So share what they've done.
Dakota. Yeah. So there was a company called Dakota that was around text analytics with emotional context, and it was years ago. Right. The principals behind this company were involved in that. Now they've taken it on steroids with AI. So it is emotion intelligence AI, and it is focused on digital experiences and understanding emotion, digital experiences with the steroid effect that AI can do to what was fundamentally was text analytics, sentiment analysis, right? I mean, we've had those things for a long time, and they undergird most LLMs now. They're kind of baked in. So to a great extent, those solutions arrived, they just got absorbed, right? The sexiness of the generative AI kind of replaced it. But so we're just seeing now they're an example of taking that, still keeping that focus on understanding emotion, utilizing these tools from that standpoint.
And what I think I read in there, and I could be wrong, but they're also the models are being trained to not only recognize and kind of interpret those emotions, but potentially act upon, like could potentially do the next step in whatever that would be. So that to me is also really interesting. Like, anyway,
it is. Think my customer sat, right? They're pissed off. I'm a frustrated customer. And so going through that, well, let's de-escalate. Let's make them happy, right? Yes.
Exactly. As opposed to just throwing them here, we'll give you a, I'll use the example of BarkBox. We get BarkBox because Maggie's a spoiled little baby girl. And the box arrived opened, and I wasn't sure whether I had the right number of toys in there, and I send them a little message. I wasn't annoyed at all, but they very quickly solved the problem for me. And I'm like, oh, okay. I don't even know if that's what I wanted, though. I didn't really. And when I say solve the problem, they confirmed that I had the right number of toys, but then they threw me a bone. They're like, we'll comp you your next box.
Literally.
I was like, not my point. My point was I was actually irritated that the box arrived opened. That bothered me. So if that great customer support system really took a minute to explain, to think about why did she reach out? She reached out because I felt icky. I felt like somebody had been in my dog's toys. It felt weird to me. And sure, they solved the problem, but I didn't really have any gratification in the engagement. So anyway, so that's why I'm like, well, this is interesting from a customer sat point of view, because you have to start with understanding and interpreting before you just solve a problem, because
Right.
maybe they didn't need to do that. They just needed to reassure me everything was fine, like, but then they just were like, here.
Karen, it was probably built by men, right?
Yeah.
So, what? She's unhappy. Fix it.
Yes,
right.
Fix it. But in the world of experience, of experiences, I didn't really need a fix. I needed reassurance that everything was okay. I needed reassurance that my dog wasn't ingesting a fake toy. Like, anyway, so I didn't need but I was, oh my
There's
God.
nuance. There's nuance, and that's important. And yes, again, speaking as a man, it's difficult for me. But it's so my wife and I had the same conversation this morning. She was talking about something, and I was like, I went into fix it mode, and she was like, I don't need you to fix it. I just need you to
I
listen.
don't need that.
And that's so hard.
No shade to BarkBox. No shade to BarkBox. Appreciate the free box you're sending me next month or something. No shade. So anyway.
Yeah. All right. Let's
let's talk about WPP, right? What?
The large marketing model. Surprise, surprise.
Open
right?
intelligence. So WPP debuted open intelligence, a large marketing model. And if you just do a Google search for that WPP open intelligence, you will get a lot of news stories. It's a big buzz right now. So go ahead and kind of dig in.
Oh no, I mean that's it. And we're going to see more of this. So as all of the WPP, Dentsu, Publicis, all these companies, have been data driven for a very long time. And they're leveraging now the data, because AI allows it to happen, to understand things at a deeper level, to this era of data utility, and turning that into a performance component. There are so many companies out there, but these the big global conglomerates are in a good position to do that. Stagwell, Zeta, those companies you would think of that would be doing this, but also so could Google, and Amazon, and who own huge ad networks, obviously. That's the same thing. Take that data and make it within the behavioral data that drives them, and now make that predictive and baked into marketing performance.
And also check your marketing ROI against what's in there and track that as well. So it's pretty much a powerhouse. It is a consumer panel data powerhouse of information that can be linked to your marketing performance. And I think that's super interesting to think about. Power of it, the power of a large. We've had big data for a long time, but this is now the power to access that data very clearly for this purpose. Which I'm like, all right, cool.
Yep. It just makes it. I real quick. I this week for the first time loaded a raw data set, a survey data set. I just want to see if what would do it. I loaded it into a few different LLMs, and just said analyze it. Right, it's raw data, Excel, and holy shit, it did. Right, and now I don't trust it, but the sheer fact, but it's probably right. But the sheer fact that I could load up raw data and say analyze it, and then said now create personas, create a segmentation model and personas off of this, and implications for the end clients that were involved, just as an experiment. And it did. Was it great? Well, I'll compare that when we go through the traditional analysis process. Now imagine that in this, right? You're absorbing all of this data, not just 2,000 completes on a survey. Or if that was connected, if I was able to connect that to, let's tie this to this marketing data, and understand the gap between this was around messaging, the performance of ad lift, brand lift, et cetera, and the disconnect of understanding, well, here's what's missing is that you're on the right message. And this was off the shelf LLM. So
that's the key thing right there, is if it's one thing to imagine what an off-the-shelf LLM can do, but then those LLMs that are
purpose trained,
customized and trained for this very specific use case in the insights and analytics industry, right?
Yes.
That's where I go. It's like, we have lots of partners who are like, but wait, Lenny, you should be I'm sure right now they're like, you should be putting your data into our platform and let our AI do it. And it would be really interesting, right, to see the comparison between some of our partners' platforms and just these, for public use LLMs.
Yeah, 100%. This was pro bono NGO work, so that's why I didn't. If you are one of our partners, why I didn't ask you for that, although I was tempted. But yeah,
but yeah, no, it's cool. We got to get to these next.
Well, let's go to the next one. Right. Sorry.
Well, I was going to say, before we do that, can we jump to Mary Meeker's latest report, because it ties into so much of what we're talking about, which is these public LLMs, there's this, thank you for I guess you haven't gotten it there yet, but Carly, we're skipping a bullet down to Mary Meeker's latest report. There's 10 key AI trends, and it's kind of talking about AI disruptions. And some of the things that are in there are incredibly interesting to me if you read through it. And one of them, it talks a lot about these public use LLMs. And it's talking about AI user adoption in some of these and how quickly people have gotten on board with just what's publicly available. That to me is like, that's insane. So one of the stats she shared is 0 to 800 mm. Is that mm is millions, right? Yep. So 800,000 millions, 800 million, whatever, weekly users in 17 months. So like, that's enormous. Infrastructure investments are off the charts, which I think is really interesting to think about. And then also she said, and I want to get into the Perplexity thing for sure, but as I'm reading this, talking about the next 2.6 billion internet users are going to be AI first. So that's also interesting to think about, the people that aren't being disruptive, but haven't even, that this is what their world is going to be. Right. This is all they know. And that is that is a rapidly approaching future. That is not today. That is a tomorrow where these people will not know. They will not know Google search without AI overviews, for example.
Well, look at what we saw in the mid 2000s with mobile, right?
Exactly.
I mean, for emerging markets, not necessarily Western markets, but they were mobile first. Their experience of being online was through mobile devices.
Right. So, and these are the publicly available LLMs. So we love up to what Perplexity is doing, but that's what's really interesting to me about it is look at what's happening with those in this Mary Meeker data, because what does that tell you about all our kind of fit to use insights and analytics platforms? This is there. Yeah.
Well, it's probably useful to just point that out, guys. The big LLMs, those are the operating systems, right? So that's Windows and Apple, and that's the level that they did.
Right.
Now we're at the app, right? We're building applications off of that. And so all of the solutions we just talked about, right? The new product launch, et cetera, that's now the app layer of building off of this. And that's a whole lot, and those are going to be vertically focused and, et cetera, et cetera. Whole different arena of growth that we are seeing now with the app layer. And that goes to, Perplexity, launched Perplexity Labs, which I have not, it is open on my desktop. I have not had a chance to, that project I was talking about earlier. I intend to explore that with Perplexity Labs. The point is, it's a shared space. People can go in, you can collaborate on different solutions. It has documents, presentations, et cetera, all baked in. So that is an LLM now creating a public LLM, creating a very specific use case for users that has business applications as well. And I'm a big fan of Perplexity. I like what they're doing. And here's just a more example of the utility. They keep expanding the utility. Not just them, all of them. If you notice Gemini on everything in Google now. So
I know. Well, and it's funny from a user standpoint, the user confusion is real. And what I mean by that is okay, I need to take this to, I need to take this to AI. And then it's like, all of a sudden I have a decision to make that, I don't really want to have that decision. I don't really want to have to do the thinking right now, because obviously the task I'm putting AI towards is to reduce my need to use mental energy around that. But now I have to think, wait, is this a chat GPT? Is this one of my custom chat GPTs? Is this Perplexity? Like, should I go into Claude for this one? No, Perplexity kind of handles all of them, but it doesn't do the same as chat GPT in terms of output. So then I'm like, which one am I going to use Notebook for? There are choices in this race that we have to make. And the only way to make them is to keep trying all of them. Don't just stay narrow. Keep getting into all of them and see the differences play out in your use cases.
Yes, because they change literally weekly. So
weekly. And if you build custom GPTs, as I do, I just spent the last 24 hours. It's not working the way it used to. And I'm like, what changed? Because you were working really well 2 months ago, and now all of a sudden you're not giving me what I want. So what changed? And I can't crack that nut. It's making me crazy. So trying to figure it out. But yeah, when the systems change a little bit, what you've built has to be rebuilt. The disruption is ongoing and continuous, right?
Right. There's no hence why we do this every Friday. All right, let's there's a whole bunch we want to share. There's one more piece. Well, I think that research goes into further reading.
You're right. Everything from here on out is really just for further reading. So take Mary's and keep reading other things, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Go ahead and share about this one.
Give me a bunch of links. This was academic research. The LLMs outperform humans in persuasive communication. So they ran a test basically where they had a human making an argument and an LLM making an argument, and the people were more responsive and converted their opinions or took the action, or I forget the details of the experiment, but the LLMs did better than humans in convincing somebody to do something. So that's interesting. And if I recall correctly, it was blind. The people that were being tested didn't know it was an LLM versus a human. So that gets in the whole. But there we are.
Don't go there. Yeah, no, the societal demise. I
wasn't going to say dystopian hellscape this time.
But it is interesting to think about it, especially when it comes to what's an application of that. If you think about, kind of survey, and maybe we share about Lauren Leak next, and that Substack article. But the whole idea about what could that persuasion do in our industry, which is, can the LLM get ahead of, or the AI get ahead of having to convince somebody why this taking survey would be a great idea. And
or customer sat, right? The examples we used earlier, right?
Yeah. So for real. So there's that will come back. Let's do them in order so we don't get too confused, because we have to just rifle through some stuff. MRII launched their global study, their 2025 global study. Key takeaway for me in this is the need to upskill. That's not a big surprise. We've been talking about it. We will continue to talk about it. But that's why I think a show like this is so important. People need to, they 100% just need to be versed in all of this and have their usage and open-mindedness to all of these AI features and functions and tools. It's overwhelming, but you got to do the work, because
massive trending grit. Right. The AI upskilling. That's what MRI, falling job satisfaction, rise in demand for AI skills. I'm not sure if there's a direct correlation there or not, but they certainly were 2 data points. So they do great work. If you're not familiar with MRI, Market Research Institute International, they're connected to the University of Georgia Master's Market Research Program, which I'm on the board of. So I like them a lot. Right. But they do really great work. And here's an example of the type of research they do. So
pretty cool.
So good stuff. Great thoughtful article by our friends at AYTM. I love Mazen on data quality as a driver of innovation. And that was really the piece why I picked this out, was look, these challenges drive us to innovate, not just crap, there's a challenge. But let's fix it. Right. And so a really tough article.
And I love that what we're seeing now with all of the, the AI features and tools, and, which we've said is table stakes, right? It's like, nope, now you have to. Like now you have to. So so what's your, how are you using it? And are you using it just as a basic chatbot, or are you going further than that? And that's what starts to get really interesting is how else? In what ways might we leverage this technology that is so readily available? And that's some of the stories that Lenny and I are sharing are these these kind of like, oh, now that's a cool use case. That's something that's really worth pointing out. So yeah, keep those innovations going. Good stuff, right?
Absolutely. This had made the rounds all over the place. The AI is reshaping market research. Andreessen Horowitz, big, venture capital firm. I will say that, so their basic proposition is AI is going to make, just going to gobble the world, the insights world. Okay, that is a possibility. I did an analysis, and I think I shared with you, Karen, right? We're compared to grid data, and grid data didn't say that. So VCs are always going to be hype, filled with hype, et cetera, et cetera. Is that a 5 or 10 year future? Hell, maybe even 3, maybe. But the current data indicates that humans, and we've talked about this all through this show, humans are still a necessary and vital component of that. And so it's interesting. These guys make their money, obviously, from betting. Andreessen Horowitz is a legendary venture capital firm. So they've made lots of great bets that are transformative for the world. Interesting, they're paying attention to market research, a very specific thing for our category. But I wouldn't read it and go, don't have a panic attack, because that future that they're envisioning isn't here yet. And I think that there's things they don't factor in.
Yeah, for real. But good to read, good to stay aware of, and yeah, that just puts a little pressure on strategic planning to be like, okay, this is what we do now. This is our 1-year plan, and then what's our 5-year plan, and what's our 10-year plan.
Absolutely.
So you gotta be looking at all of those timelines, because that's where we are right now. So
we got some stuff maybe happen later in the year that'll dive into that. It's a secret for now, but we got some thinking about that.
Yes, plant the seed. The need for strategic planning.
The need for strategic planning. If you're a leader in the insights industry on the supplier side, where do you go? How do you do that? Anyway, all right. Now the
secret is.
Look, I'm just throwing out stuff.
Back to this Lauren Leak thing.
I didn't like that at all. I didn't like this.
All right, so Lauren Leak, there's a Substack kind of on the quiet collapse of surveys, but here's what I do like about this. So we'll share the link to her thought piece. Again, it's on Substack. You don't have to subscribe to her. You just click on the not now and read. That's fine too, or subscribe. But she's pointing out 2 big problems. So there's the response rates, the problem with response rates, and then there's the increase of sort of AI agents. But, what she does point out is like, there are things that we can do to fight this and, make surveys less boring for real. Like, we got to stop talking about that and just do it. Some people are doing a great job on that, but, we got to get into bot detection, detecting these bots, like fraud detection. Like, yes, we've been talking about that. There are tools to help you with that. Don't waste any more time. Implement this stuff.
It was a wonderful post. I didn't like it. I was shocked by the analysis. Not shocked like I didn't know, but it was very glaring. Like, wow. It just really puts into perspective with the analysis that she had conducted comparing.
So take the action, folks. Take the action, because all of that. And then anyway, let's just talk about this last one. I'm looking at the clock, and we've been at it for 3 minutes already. What? A blog post on AI and judgment. So this kind of wraps up everything we're talking about, right? And how to use kind of human judgment, and our ability to use human judgment has never been more important and more kind of valuable in this, highly digital, algorithmic AI world that we're living in. So kind of an interesting read there. I don't know if you had further thoughts on that one, but that's.
I love that focus on preserving intuition and meaning. There's a term that popped up this week, and it wasn't worth sharing, on the rise of wisdom work. And that's really resonated with me, with this idea that it's kind of summarized sort of intuition, creativity, imagination, kind of these fuzzy concepts that really are fundamentally human. And as the discerning, defining characteristic, and that's what this gets to.
Yeah, fuzzier for some than others.
Sure. Sure. I'm getting fuzzier by the day. So yeah.
I'm like fuzzy. That's it. That's my DNA you're talking about.
Yeah, but good stuff. And guys, let us know if you, I know we go over time, if you find value and we do this, or is it like, can you just keep it to 20 minutes? That was our original intent. We've
I
never
know,
done that very well.
20 minutes. We're not good at that, but that's fine. The exchange at greenbook.org for not only any feedback, but also we will be watching that email for your entries to our competition to see who can find the most pop culture references in the upcoming Grits Insights Practice Report to be released next week. Yep. We'll see some of you at the Grit Forum, I hope next Tuesday, and we'll see the rest of you maybe next Friday.
Yep. Everybody have a wonderful weekend.
For real. For real. Bye. Bye, everyone. Bye, Lenny.
Bye.